Things are falling apart. I don't know if I can find a way forward.
It's no secret that Forbidden West boasts a massive world with tons to explore, and that Guerilla Games have overhauled a lot of mechanics and systems for this mega-hyped sequel. However, that doesn't mean that it spells out every single thing you need to know, and in fact it leaves a bunch of helpful tips out of its tutorials. Or at least it doesn't explain them super well. To that end, here are the most important things that Horizon Forbidden West doesn't tell you. First up, and probably the thing to keep in mind most often, is not to bother topping off your ammo supplies if you can help it. I know, it's a force of habit for many of us, but crafting a fresh batch of shock arrows, for example, will use up the same amount of resources regardless of whether you're crafting 2, 4, or 7. So make sure you hold off until you can actually make use of all the ammo that you can craft. Once you get through Forbidden West's lengthy tutorial phase and into its open world proper, you may come across human enemies harvesting fallen machines for parts. If you can take them out, they'll drop the parts that they've managed to scavenge from the machine, including legendary parts. This is a great way to obtain rare parts, especially early on, since you won't actually have to fight tougher machines. This one might just count for half, since technically the game does tell you that you can customize things in the setting menu, but there are a lot more options than you might think. Some are helpful UI tweaks, like making the climbing annotations and object markers persistent, to things that are both excellent accessibility options and can help you get through difficult gameplay sections. You can increase the weapon wheel slowdown time, or extend the duration of your concentration ability if you're playing on easy or lower. If default works for you, great, but definitely take a few minutes to see if any of these options help you out. When you manage to clear an enemy camp, sometimes friendly settlers will have taken over and merchants will pop up. It doesn't happen for all of them, some even get overrun by machines, but it's worth a little backtracking to see if any new stores have opened and if they're selling anything useful. You can fast travel to more than just campfires this time. Tall Necks, hunting grounds, relic ruins, merchant outposts, and more can all be fast traveled to directly by selecting their icon on the map. You can also fast travel to a settlement just by selecting its zoomed out icon. There's no need to zoom all the way in and then pick its campfire. Just like in Zero Dawn, your mounted machines have an autopilot. If you let go of the left stick while riding, your mount will automatically follow the path you're on and head towards a waypoint or quest objective if you've got one active. This can be a little finicky though, so don't trust them to make any hairpin turns without coming to a dead stop. If you need to manually stop your mount quickly though, you can hold down the slow button and you'll go from a sprint to a full stop pretty quickly. Conversely, you can hold down the accelerate button to go faster and faster rather than just pressing it a bunch of times. In addition to getting you around faster, your mount has a couple of tricks up its hooves. For instance, you can jump off of it to maintain your momentum as you start running, and even parlay that into an attack. But the real pro move is to drop onto it from your shield wing. It doesn't work from any height, but there are few things as satisfying as shield gliding off a cliff and then dropping onto your mount for a quick getaway. If you're trying to be sneaky though, you're probably better off on your own. When in stealth, avoid calling your mount unless you're planning on a quick exit, as they have a bad habit of picking fights with nearby machines. Overridden machines won't react when you shoot components off of them. This is really handy for harvesting resources, especially once you unlock new override codes for bigger machines at cauldrons. Be careful however, as every time you attack a friendly machine, it will decrease its override meter, meaning that you'll have to defend yourself from it eventually. The easiest way to find hard-to-get parts, however, providing you aren't bound by some puritanical moral code, is to knock the difficulty down to easier story mode. Not only will the fights against tough machines be way more forgiving, but at these difficulties, parts that are usually destroyed when a machine goes down persist. You won't be penalized for dropping the difficulty down either, and you can always change it back once you've got the parts you need. On the other end of the difficulty spectrum, if you're looking for a greater challenge, seek out Apex machine variants. Marked by black armor and purple cabling, these machines are tougher and carry more valuable loot. How often Apex machines appear is determined by your difficulty setting and Aloy's level. So the best way to ensure you run into Apex enemies more often is to level Aloy up and bump the difficulty to harder settings. It's also worth noting that while you can unlock codes to override most machines in Forbidden West, their Apex variants can never be overridden. You want to dispose of scavenger machines quickly. While scrappers and scroungers may appear harmless while salvaging machine carcasses, the longer they scavenge, the more likely they are to steal valuable resources that you can't get back. If you're performing a melee combo that requires a pause in the middle, look for the glint that appears at the tip of your spear. You'll also hear this sound from your TV or controller. Hit the next button right on this glint and you'll successfully continue the combo. Whether you're going after Apexes or just the standard wants to kill you robots, it's important to know that Aloy's dodge roll grants you a scant moment of invincibility, so be sure to practice timing your dodges when taking on a tough machine or a group of enemies. If you find yourself in dire need of metal shards, you can disassemble valuables and crafting materials for a quick infusion of scrap cash. With that being said, unless it's an absolute emergency, you'll probably want to avoid doing this, as crafting supplies, particularly for ammunition, are almost always harder to come by, and selling your valuables to merchants will almost always pay you double than what you can scrap them for. For example, you receive 10 shards when selling a bronze ingot to a merchant, compared to just 5 when disassembling it via your inventory. While certain weapon upgrades need machine hearts, only those needed to actually craft something like Behemoth or Thunderjaw hearts are kept out of the valuables section of your inventory, so you can sell any hearts that do appear there without worry. Out in the world, you might notice that different objects have different markers. Triangular markers are for natural resources like plants, rocks, and wood, while diamond-shaped ones are for machine parts, traps, and storage boxes. The color of the icons represent their rarity. In the case of objects with multiple items, the color will reflect the rarest item that the object contains. Certain ancient vehicles, particularly cars, have panels that you can either hit or pry open, revealing boxes of loot. Not all vehicles have storage compartments to check though, so use your focus to highlight the ones that do. That said, don't be deceived by the color of markers when you find a superior chest. Even if it shows a green uncommon rarity, any chest that you have to pry open will always contain some armor or a weapon, so they're always worth opening when you find one. If you see a chest but can't figure out how to get up to it, don't worry. So long as it's not crazy far away, you can use your Pullcaster to yank it down to you. If a machine is trying to find out where you are in stealth, if you throw a rock to distract it, that machine will keep looking in your direction until it reaches the rock's location. You can change the current weather conditions by loading your most recent save. The weather is determined randomly whenever you do this. Some sections of the main story feature specific weather, so it won't work then, but it's a handy trick for when you're hunting machines or scavenging for collectibles in the open world, just like when you change the time of day at a settlement. If you're looking to visit every nook and cranny of the Forbidden West, you'll need some special tools to get there. These weird red flowers block some pathways, flooded caverns are too deep to dive into, and these weird metal flowers have vines everywhere. There are 3 story quests that will bring you up to roughly halfway through the main story: Death's Door, the Sea of Sands, and Seeds of the Past. Completing these will give you the tools you need to find just about everything in the game. In the opening hours and throughout her adventure, Aloy will come across all kinds of collectibles and currencies that can be turned in for rewards and gear later on, even if she doesn't know it yet. Thankfully, we do! Most of the collectibles, like signal lenses or the ornaments found in relic ruins, are attached to a side quest. We've got a full guide on how to redeem these collectibles on IGN, though thankfully they're not all that complicated. Some just require you to visit the right merchant. You'll find colorful blooms to make armor dyes while climbing around, which can be applied at a dyer's shop in settlements. They're usually set up right next to a painter, where you can apply those cool face paints you might have unlocked. The first of these vendors we discovered were in the settlements of Plainsong and Scalding Spear, respectively. When you complete a hunting challenge or clear a rebel camp, you'll earn hunting medals and soldier tags. These can be traded to the Arena Prize Master after completing a mid-game quest line for very rare weapons and resources. These are some of the best weapons you can get in the Forbidden West, so be sure to save up. Lastly is Greenshine, which you can find all over the place starting very early on, and you'll definitely want to grab as much of it as you can since it's used to upgrade your most powerful gear. That said, you won't need to worry about that for a long while. It's definitely an endgame resource. Speaking of, our last thing, and this is more of an FYI than anything else, the level cap in Horizon Forbidden West is 50, but you can keep earning skill points once you reach it. That said, any and all further skill points must be earned by completing quests and activities, so consider saving at least a few side quests and errands for later on. So there you have it, all the most important stuff that Horizon doesn't tell you. For more, why not check out all the big changes this iteration makes from Zero Dawn, or our picks for the most important stuff to do first. You can find more tips, plus a full walkthrough and where to find the trickiest collectibles and secrets in our full Forbidden West guide, along with all your other gaming needs over on IGN.com.
Watch yourself out there, and good luck.